The solicitor's letter arrived on a day much like any other. Grey, unremarkable. It lay on the doormat like a harbinger of misery. Inside, the news was stark. I had inherited Blackwood Manor, a crumbling estate in the remote Scottish Highlands. A distant relative, someone I'd never met, had breathed their last, leaving me with this gift. I had heard whispers, of course, stories whispered by the crackling fire in hushed tones. Blackwood Manor was not a place one spoke of lightly. It held secrets, they said, dark, terrible secrets. I should have walked away, ignored the letter, the inheritance, the whispers. But something, perhaps morbid curiosity or a sliver of morbid hope, drew me in. Blackwood Manor, with its shadowed eaves and desolate moorland, beckoned me like a moth to a flickering flame. The drive was long, the silence punctuated only by the rhythmic thud of my pulse against my eardrums. My apprehension grew with every mile, morphing into a palpable dread as I finally steered my car down the overgrown drive. The house loomed large, a Gothic monstrosity silhouetted against the bruised sky. Its windows, like vacant eyes, seemed to follow my every move. I stepped out of the car, the silence of the moors pressing in on me. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and vaguely unsettling. A shiver, a premonition of the horrors that awaited, ran down my spine. I had crossed the threshold into the unknown, into the heart of Blackwood Manor, and there was no turning back. The interior of Blackwood Manor was a testament to forgotten grandeur. Dust-laden portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow me as I moved through the darkened rooms. Cobwebs draped the ornate furniture like macabre shrouds, and the air hung heavy with the scent of decay. Each step echoed in the oppressive silence, amplifying the sense of unease that had taken root in my stomach. I wandered through the manor, my fingers trailing along the cold, damp walls. The house felt alive, breathing with a malevolence that sent shivers down my spine. In the drawing room, I found a half-finished game of chess, the pieces scattered across the board as if in haste. The fireplace was cold, the ashes long since turned to dust. Who had played here? And what had caused them to abandon their game so abruptly? As dusk crept in, casting long, eerie shadows across the manor, I found myself drawn to a room at the end of the hallway. The door creaked open as if inviting me in, revealing a dusty old library. The scent of mildew and decaying paper filled the air, and I could almost hear the whisper of turning pages. The library was a treasure trove of forgotten lore. Ancient tomes bound in leather and iron lined the shelves, their titles whispering of forbidden knowledge and arcane rituals. I ran my fingers along their spines, feeling a strange pull towards these repositories of the unknown. As I delved deeper into the library, I became aware of a faint sound, a soft whisper that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. It was a low, mournful sound, like the wind whistling through a graveyard. I stopped, holding my breath, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, and I could have sworn I heard my name being uttered amongst the unintelligible murmurs. A cold dread gripped my heart, and I felt an almost overwhelming urge to flee this place. But curiosity, or perhaps a perverse sense of obligation to the secrets this house held, rooted me to the spot. I turned, my heart pounding in my chest, and that's when I saw it, or rather didn't see it. For in the reflection of the dusty window pane, a fleeting shadow flickered. It was the distinct outline of a figure standing just behind me, tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the darkness. I whirled around, my breath catching in my throat, but there was nothing there. The library was empty, the silence now deafening in the wake of the whispers and the fleeting glimpse of nothingness. Was I imagining things, my senses playing tricks on me in this oppressive atmosphere? I tried to rationalize it away, to blame the shadows and the isolation, but deep down a seed of doubt had been sown. I was no longer alone in Blackwood Manor. Something else was here, watching me, toying with me. Sleep offered no escape. My dreams were plagued by the figure in the mirror, its face always obscured, its presence always menacing. I would wake in a cold sweat, the whispers from the library echoing in my ears. Days bled into nights, each one a torment. I became a prisoner in my own inherited cage, haunted by the unseen, tormented by the unheard. My sanity, once a sturdy fortress, began to crumble under the relentless assault of fear and paranoia. One evening, as I wandered the manor in a daze of sleep deprivation and terror, I stumbled upon a hidden room. It was tucked away behind a bookshelf in the library. its entrance concealed by a tapestry so old it seemed to disintegrate at my touch. The air in the room was stale, heavy with the scent of decay and something else, something akin to ozone perhaps. Inside, a small wooden desk sat bathed in the faint light filtering through a grimy window. On it lay a leather-bound diary, its pages filled with spidery handwriting. I picked it up, my fingers trembling, and began to read. The diary belonged to a woman named Eleanor, a previous resident of Blackwood Manor. Her words painted a chilling picture of the horrors she had endured within these walls. She too had heard the whispers, had seen the fleeting shadows. She wrote of a malevolent entity, a being of pure darkness that fed on fear and despair. Eleanor's entries grew increasingly frantic, her writing becoming more and more erratic as the entity's grip on her tightened. The last entry simply read, "He is here. I can feel his presence. He is coming for me." The final page was blank, the rest of the diary ripped away as if in haste. Eleanor's words confirmed what I had already begun to suspect. Blackwood Manor was not merely haunted, it was a conduit, a beacon for something ancient and evil, and now I was trapped in its web. Fear, raw and primal, threatened to consume me. But something within me, perhaps a flicker of the defiance that had led me here in the first place, refused to let me succumb. I would not meet the same fate as Eleanor. I would confront this entity, this devourer of souls, and I would break its hold on Blackwood Manor. Armed with nothing but a kerosene lamp and a newfound resolve, I descended into the bowels of the manor, into the darkness that lay beneath. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, as I made my way down the creaking stairs. The basement was a labyrinth of damp stone and cobwebs, the silence broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water. I could feel a presence here, a palpable darkness that pressed in on me, suffocating me. And then I saw him. The figure stood at the end of a long, narrow corridor, its back to me. It was tall and skeletal, its form draped in what looked like a tattered black cloak. I called out, my voice echoing unnaturally in the oppressive silence. The figure didn't turn. As I cautiously approached, the lamplight flickered, casting dancing shadows that played tricks on my eyes. The figure remained motionless, its back still turned. I was almost upon it when it finally moved. It turned slowly, deliberately, and I found myself staring into a face that was not a face at all. It was a swirling vortex of darkness, an abyss that seemed to suck the light and the very air from my lungs. I stumbled back, dropping my lamp. The darkness closed in, suffocating, all-consuming. I could feel its icy grip on my mind, my sanity slipping away like sand through my fingers, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. I awoke in a cold sweat, my heart pounding against my ribs. The nightmare, vivid and terrifying, clung to me like a shroud. I was back in the library, the diary lying open on the desk before me. Had it all been a dream? The figure, the basement, the suffocating darkness? I wasn't sure. But one thing was clear. I couldn't stay in Blackwood Manor, not another night. I gathered my things, a frantic edge to my movements. As I made my way to the front door, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small wooden door almost completely hidden by a tapestry depicting a hunting scene. Curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination with the horrors this house held, compelled me to open it. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading up to the attic. With a deep breath, I stepped inside and began to climb. The attic was a cavernous space filled with dust-covered furniture and forgotten trinkets. Moonlight streamed in through a broken window, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. In the center of the attic, beneath the broken window, stood a cheval glass, its surface reflecting the pale moonlight. As I approached, I noticed something strange. Reflected in the mirror was not my own terrified face, but the figure from the basement. The swirling vortex of darkness. It reached out from the mirror, its long skeletal fingers closing around my throat. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The darkness enveloped me, suffocating, consuming, and then silence. The figure was gone. The mirror reflected only my own terrified face, my eyes wide with horror. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my throat. I was alive, but something was different. I could feel a presence within me, a darkness that whispered in the recesses of my mind. It was here, inside me now, and it wasn't leaving. Blackwood Manor had claimed another victim.